The Rams beat the Browns 20-13 on Sunday Night Football to improve to 3-0. Jared Goff threw 2 touchdowns to Cooper Kupp, and the Rams defense came up big to put this away at the end. See, what'd you make of the Rams win?
I thought going against that secondary, I thought they were going to have 300 yards passing. I really did. I thought they did a good job of containing the Rams. You go on the road, hostile environment, getting that win for them was a big win, and that goal line stand at the end to be able to secure the win, that's what you want. If this Rams team is going to reach their goals, you're going to have some series like that. Big win for the Rams.
Rams offense yet to really get going this year in any of their games. Their defense, though, to my eye, has been exceptional and far improved from last year. Last year, we talked about how much talent they had on the defense. Aside from Aaron Donald, it was not a great defense. This year, the Rams defense has been the strength of their team, as Goff really hasn't gotten on track post-Super Bowl yet this season.
They still got to improve that run defense. Man, they gave up 200 yards rushing last in the game.
Week before this.
Yeah.
On to the Saints now in Seattle, where Teddy Bridgewater got the start.
I'm football overload.
I got you,
For New Orleans, Teddy threw for 177 yards, 2 touchdowns. Saints get their first win without Drew Brees since he joined the team back in 2006. Nick, what'd you take away from the Saints win?
Well, this was all hands on deck. Punt return touchdown, start the game. Then you get a defensive score, scoop and score. You get a touchdown right before the half, and in the game, statistically, it looked like Seattle was yardage-wise had somewhat dominated. They were getting crushed. And if you take Seattle out of their ineffective running game, that's not what they want to do. And all of a sudden, they're getting blown out where Teddy doesn't have to do much. Kamara was great. Special teams were great. Defense was really good until the end. That's a great way to get a victory in a hard-fought environment, for the New Orleans Saints.
That's elite coaching by Pete Carroll. He had that team ready.
By Sean Payton.
By Sean Payton. They knew going against Pete Carroll, man, going into Seattle, how teams have struggled through the years. But, man, what a team win that was. Dominant up front, took the pressure off their quarterback, told us during the week, oh, yeah, don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Yeah, we knew who the quarterback was going to be, Teddy, and he was going to protect him. Alvin Kamara was the best player on the field yesterday. Sean Payton leaned on him. Big win going to Seattle and get out there with the
and
W.
A painful loss for Pete Carroll, who got
he got his nose. He got nose broke in pregame. Some player hit him with football. Kendrick's about to catch another charge, man.
All right, the Cowboys were favored by 22.5 points.
I think there's a special on nose jobs and everything, man.
Over Miami.
Oh, you think Pete Carroll and I can get a 2-for-1, is what you're saying? All right, thanks, C.
The largest spread week 3, according to Fox Bet. They covered with a 31-6 win to remain undefeated. Ezekiel Elliott rushed the ball 19 times, 125 yards, while Dak Prescott added 3 touchdowns. See what you make of the Cowboys' performance yesterday.
Good win. Man, it's not every Sunday you get a high school team to be able to play against. Man, the Dolphins. I was happy for Josh Rosen, though. He did look good playing the Dolphins. This is just a matter of showing up. Nick had said last Wednesday, hey, the Cowboys are 0-3. It's like
3-0. They're 3-0. Exactly, and I was correct. I had my crystal ball, and I was correct on that. This is a great sign for Dallas in this regard, and I know it's the competition. Everyone this year, you have an asterisk next to your Dolphins game. I get it. This was Dak's worst game of the year, and he was fine. It's not like his worst game of the year was a disastrous game. He was fine. But when you get 125 from Zeke and 100 from Tony Pollard, you're not going to have to do much. And so, yeah, Cowboys finished the softest part of their schedule, 3-0 the way they needed to. Now the D-line starts coming back. Cowboys looking better than I think anyone realistically this side of Skip Bayless could have expected. They look great.
And they kept Zeke healthy, and now he's fresh legs moving forward. On to the Eagles. Yesterday, they hosted the Lions in Philly. Many expected the Birds to roll, but they came up short, losing 27-24. The Eagles banged up, and the Philly receivers did not help out Carson Wentz. The team had 7 drop passes, 3 offensive pass interference penalties. CeCe, what'd you take away from the Eagles' loss yesterday?
If Buddy Ryan was talking to him, he'd tell him he'd cut him. I remember playing a game like that where I dropped 3 passes. We had a team meeting. We won the game. He got up for the team meeting and said, good win yesterday. Chris Carter, you ever play like that again? I'll cut you. Later on, he's going to cut me about some other stuff. But
whatever.
You do not drop that many passes in an NFL game. And what you start to see, drop passes are contagious. You start dropping them early, Guys see you dropping them, then they lose confidence in their hands. Then the quarterback, he can't even fit the ball in there for you to be able to catch it. So it's hard to win an NFL game with that, being that careless with the football. Their ball security, Nelson Aguilar, targeted 12 times, comes up with 50 yards. When you know you need him to have one of the better games of the season, you know your guys are down. You know Alshon's down. You know D-Jack is down. He needed to step up. He didn't step up in a big way. He personally should be able to take a lot of responsibility for this loss. Carson Wentz, he hung in there as much as he could, but when you drop the ball that many times from a wide receiver standpoint, it's hard to overcome it unless you have the defense create a handful of turnovers.
I remember the first time someone told me yawning is contagious, that if you yawn, it makes someone else yawn. I said, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
No, it's true.
But you look it up, it's true. Chris has said drops are contagious forever. Now, there's not science behind it, but there does seem to be a hell of a lot of video evidence. And it's one of the reasons you're so hard on some of the top flight wide receivers when they have a drop, because you've said forever, if you see OBJ drop a pass, Jarvis is more likely to. If you see your best guy drop a pass, and I don't know why that's true, but it does appear to be true.
Most athletes are visual learners, and visually they visualize and they see it, and they can see themselves, because you see it on the Jumbotron, and you see the uniform and everything, and for a fraction of a second, you think that could be you. So I close my eyes all the time. When I watch those drops, when I watch them on the film, I always close my eyes because I don't want my brain taking those pictures, and it's obvious. When you go to practices in the summer, one guy drops it, then the next thing you know, another guy starts to drop it. Very seldom do we see it like we saw it in the Eagles game, Nick.
And you mentioned Aguilar. Aguilar also had a pass he caught that he then fumbled without being touched, it looked, while turning. That was an enormous play before the half that led to the Lions being up 10 at halftime. The Eagles this was a game that the Eagles, much like the Falcons game, by the way, where they didn't play well, yet could have won despite themselves and couldn't get it done. Malcolm Jenkins makes a great play at the tail end of the game to block a field goal. It gets returned inside the 25. Jenkins offsets his great play of blocking the field goal with an unnecessary block in the back. So Philly, instead of being set up...
That was an awful call.
Okay.
That was an awful call.
Okay, so...
Yeah, that dude turned his back.
Fair enough. Whether it was the right call or not, the point I'm making is Philly looked like they were set up down 3 in field goal range. Touchdown wins it. Field goal forces overtime. Now all of a sudden they're at midfield.
And it also speaks to what kind of day it was for them.
All day long. It was Philadelphia. It looked like Detroit. Nobody returns kicks for touchdowns in the NFL anymore. They have tried to remove that from football. Kick return touchdown for Detroit. Philly at home, losing to Detroit. Now, I know Detroit hasn't lost, so maybe I'm not giving them enough credit. But losing at home to Detroit, when Dallas just coasting right along, 3-0, Philly now 1-2, and you told us at the beginning of the segment, they play in Green Bay in 3.5 days. Man, that's a good way to start 1-3 and to be up against it to start the season.
Yeah, a team with the deepest roster, so much optimism coming in, stumbling out of the gate so far this season. All right, on to the Chiefs and the Ravens in what was supposed to be a matchup of MVP hopefuls. One reigned supreme, and that would be Patrick Mahomes, who threw for 374 yards and 3 touchdowns, while Lamar Jackson on the other side struggled with the deep ball, something that couldn't be said the first 2 weeks of the season. Chiefs remain undefeated. They've now scored 26 or more points in a record 24 straight regular season games. All right, let's start there, Nick. What did Mahomes and the Chiefs prove in their win over Baltimore?
Nobody is slowing down this offense, flatly. This was rain intermittent. They had no left tackle. They didn't have their best wide receiver. They didn't have their starting running back. And you look down, and it's the beginning of the fourth quarter against maybe the best defense in the AFC other than New England. And you're like, oh, they're up 30-13. The Jags game, it's like, oh, turns out to be a great defense. You look down, beginning of the fourth quarter, oh, it's 37-13. The Raiders game in between. They scored four touchdowns in the second quarter and then just put it in neutral and glided on home. It feels right now that if you have Andy Reid designing the plays and Patrick Mahomes throwing the football, almost all the other pieces are interchangeable. They didn't even have their best running back named Williams yesterday, and he's the one who makes the play that clinches the game late after Baltimore had a bit of a fourth quarter rally. Patrick Mahomes just in uncharted waters now. We all said he can't match his 5,000-yard, 50-touchdown season. He's on pace for a 6,300-yard, 54-touchdown season, and he hasn't thrown an interception yet. So Chiefs offense against Jacksonville and Baltimore, two of the best defenses in football, has been exceptional. We can only imagine what they're going to look like when they play some of the worst defenses in football. And the defense has clearly been improved. I'm not ready to say the defense is fixed yet, but the defense clearly is improved. Right now, the Chiefs, bless you, look like, if not the best team in football, clearly one of the top two.
Yeah, they did a good job yesterday. You have to give their defense credit, because what Baltimore offers and presents, it's a lot of stuff. Now, I do believe that Baltimore's passing game with Hollywood Brown, when he's healthy, he's only practicing 1 day a week, missed all the training camp. He's still got that Liz Frank where he broke his foot, still trying to heal from that. You could see as the game goes on, he starts to get a little bit of limp, and his speed was a little bit hampered, especially on a muddy track. Andrews, their tight end, their #1 receiver, he was hurt during the week. He played in the game, didn't play real well. So they negated their tight ends from being able to be as effective. So that game plan right there was rock solid, and that was something Kansas City couldn't do before. This was a good football game, because I remember Baltimore's going to be a good team in the end. I do believe these two teams will see each other. Andy Reid and the wide receivers thus far have done a tremendous job. They make spectacular catches. They run their routes at full speed, and regardless if they're the one receiver in the play or the #4 from a priority standpoint, all their guys are making plays all over the field. So Patty Mahomes, too, because Tyreek Hill's not there and Kelsey is unselfish, he doesn't feel the demand that normal quarterbacks feel in, I got to get this guy the ball. I got to get this guy a certain amount of touches. I got to get this guy. The only difference when Patty Mahomes and the Golden State Warriors is, Golden State was top 5 in defense when they won those championships. In Kansas City, what kind of defense are they going to have? Because Patty Mahomes, Steph Curry, and what they were doing are the only things that I see. But the only thing that can stop them is that defense. Can that defense hold up if they have to go on the road and they face against teams that have more competent wide receiving core than what Baltimore has, a pretty unproven group?
So Lamar Jackson yesterday, he looked human for the first time this season. If you're Lamar Jackson, what do you take away from that game?
Well, I think Lamar, he struggled in a place throwing the ball that he struggled last year throwing the ball. And I think if you're for Lamar, Chris's point that the options he's been most dynamic with all year, Hollywood Brown did not look like the player he had the first couple weeks. And Mark Andrews, who has been dynamic for them, was a game time decision. And you could see that he was not at 100%. But I think for Lamar, it was not going to, the MVP best passer in football season was not going to continue. He did make a couple spectacular plays in the attempted comeback. 2 4th downs, one was very fortunate, wasn't picked. The other was a great play by him. And then the touchdown run to cut it to a 3-point or a 5-point game, pardon me, could have been a 3-point game if they got the 2-point conversion late in the game. He was electric, avoiding the rush again, and he was inaccurate with the football. I don't want to overreact to this game from Lamar. It was a bad game by him passing the football, but he was under duress a fair amount, and the Chiefs had a pretty good game plan, which was, if you're going to run the ball, go ahead and run the ball. And the Ravens had their plan was to run the ball, and then, to use the Warriors analogy, they went on that 18-4 run, and you get taken out of your running game, so now you have to throw it, and that's a situation I don't think Baltimore's going to find themselves in very often, where they're down 3 scores and you have to throw the football. The Chiefs did that to him, which is why, even though the Chiefs gave up 200 yards rushing, it didn't really hurt him in that regard.
Yeah, ultimately, keep your eye on those rushing numbers, because if they're going to lose, time possession is going to be a part of it. A quarterback struggling in Kansas City throwing the ball? No. On a wet day? No. I'm not worried about that at all. His team was still in the position with the comeback. If you look at the lack of experience that the skilled guys have in Baltimore, they left Kansas City yesterday feeling good, saying, you know something, I hope we get another chance at them. Baltimore trying to get back on the winning track. I think they play Cleveland this week. This is 2 very good teams playing, and I don't think that Lamar is looking at this game as a negative. He knows he can throw the ball a lot better, but there were 4 or 5 balls that he had right off the fingertips of his wide receivers and his tight ends.
Just barely missed him. He didn't turn the ball over, which was huge.
And I thought you would love John Harbaugh's aggressive play calling yesterday, going for it on the touchdown, going for it on 4th downs.
The Ravens had a very interesting, I think, philosophy. Forget the 2-point conversions, which I think everyone should do the way they did it in those spots. But they clearly thought, you know what? whether Kansas City's got 90 yards to go or 40 yards to go, they're going to be hard to stop. So our job is to keep the football. And so they went for a bunch of fourth downs. It didn't work out for them in this game, but I do agree with you. I do think it was the right call.
See, I do know you a
yes,
little bit.
Absolutely.
With that much. Coming up, Baker Mayfield says it's too soon to panic. But is he right? That's ahead on First Things First.